to the top story that we begin this broadcast with. That is about the verdict on marital rape that will in fact be pronounced by the Delhi High Court tomorrow. Now, before we go to that part, let's take a look at some data. According to the National Family Health Survey data, 66% of men and 80% women believe that it was okay for the wife to refuse sex. The reasons for refusing sex might include the partner having a sexually transmissible disease, also him having another partner, or simply because she doesn't want to. However, a small percentage still believes that women cannot refuse sex in marriage. Amid the whole marital rape debate, the Delhi High Court will be pronouncing its judgment on petitions challenging the exception to Section 375 of the IPC that's been given to marital rape. Now, let me tell you, earlier, the Supreme Court also refused to stay the trial against a husband for allegedly raping his wife. The husband had appealed against the Karnataka High Court order, which had refused to quash the charges of rape that was framed against the husband by his wife. Remember, the Karnataka High Court had observed that the exemption to marital rape is quote-unquote regressive and would counter the principle of equality stated under Article 14, and that a woman cannot be made unequal by exception 2 to Section 375 of the IPC. My colleague Nilashish joins me for more inputs on this story. Nilashish, while we go to the Karnataka High Court part of this story, tomorrow is a very, very important day that will come out of the Delhi High Court. So much of debates and deliberations have happened about the criminalization of marital rape. That possibly is going to be announced tomorrow.
Well, absolutely. The Delhi High Court will pronounce its verdict in a number of petitions that had demanded that the exception, which is exception 2 to Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code, must be struck down. That is, in fact, the exemption to non-consensual sex between husband and wife being taken away from the ambit of rape. So yes, the Delhi High Court will in fact be pronouncing its order, and that aspect of the exception is what is challenged. As far as today's developments in Supreme Court is concerned, it had issued notice in this particular appeal filed by this husband, who had in fact initially moved the Karnataka High Court against a trial court taking cognizance of an offence under Section 376 in a complaint filed by his wife, despite the fact that that exception 2 is already in place, which does, as we said, exempts non-consensual sex between a husband and wife from coming within the ambit of rape. Now, what to add on, in fact, to what you were saying about that Karnataka High Court judgment, which came on the 24th of March this year itself, it had said very clearly and very progressively in a way that a man is a man, an act is an act, and rape is rape. So that, in a way, widened the ambit of the rape law. And as far as this particular case is concerned, the Delhi High Court, of course, will pronounce its verdict. Let's not forget that the Solicitor General, Tushar Mehta, who has been appearing for the centre, has told the Delhi High Court that a stand on the issue, as far as the centre is concerned, could be taken only after consultation with all state governments and various stakeholders. Now, citing this on 3 different occasions, the centre has in fact refused to file an affidavit with their exact stand. So the centre is yet to give a clear stance on where they are as far as marital rape is concerned. But they have said that since this case could have had an impact on society and familial life, it has wide consequences, and therefore they require to have a consultative process. Now, as far as the court is concerned, they have declined to defer the hearing any longer. They had deferred the hearing on 3 to 4 occasions, trying to accommodate the centre, and they had been hearing the other parties. Now, the court had said that once you put your written submissions on record, we might make an exception and take them on. But since none of that has come in, now the court will in fact be pronouncing its order in this very contentious issue tomorrow.
All right, Nilashi, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Meanwhile, we are breaking in for some news that's just about coming in. Let's take a look at that breaking news. So the police have intensified inspections of railway and bus stations across the state of Uttarakhand after a letter threatening to blow up 6 railway stations in the state was received recently. And this letter, which was in fact written by a man who introduced himself as the commander of Pakistan-based terror outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed, threatened to blow up Dehradun, Haridwar, Rishikesh, Najibabad, Lashkar and Roorkee railway stations. This is a big security alert that is coming to us on the broadcast right now. The police, in fact, have intensified the inspections, not just at the bus stations, but also at railway stations. And this has happened after a letter was released threatening to blow up 6 railway stations in the state of Uttarakhand. In fact, this letter clearly states the places like Dehradun, Haridwar, Rishikesh, Najibabad, Lashkar and Roorkee. And in fact, it is being now attributed to a man who introduces himself as the commander of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Getting you more breaking news inputs now. The FCRA clearance row continues, and there has been a big crackdown on NGOs which have violated the FCRA norms. Government officials are also under the scanner. In fact, 2 crore Hawala transactions have also been unearthed, and as per sources, nationwide operations have been carried out by the CBI at 40 locations. My colleague Bhavtosh joins me for more on this. Bhavtosh, this was clearly after the Ministry of Home Affairs had filed a complaint to the CBI, and after which these raids are happening. Just take us through more inputs that are coming to light, because 40 locations is what we are being told that the CBI is currently raiding at.
Yes, Griha. In fact, around 40 locations are being searched by the CBI. CBI is in fact working on an input that was provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and CBI has said that over 10 individuals have been under detention, including half a dozen government officials. Now, very serious charges have been leveled by the CBI. In fact, they have said that government officials were taking bribe from the representative of NGOs as well as from the middlemen. Now, they have said that NGOs were in fact violating the FCRA guidelines, and in fact, not only violating the FCRA guidelines, they were also taking donations from abroad. Now, these officials of the government should have in fact flagged these violations, but instead of flagging these violations, they were giving them a clearance under FCRA. Now, they have said this is a gross violation of FCRA, and consequently, they have said that government officials not only committed an offense under FCRA, they were also committing an offense under Prevention of Corruption Act. But the input itself was provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and earlier today, at least at 40 locations, including Delhi, Chennai, and Coimbatore, searches were carried out. They have also managed to unearth Hawala transaction worth at least 2 crore rupees. So there is a money laundering aspect also to the FCRA violation. So it could be possible that CBI would be writing to the Enforcement Directorate to look into this. Now, in March, the Ministry of Home Affairs, in fact, had extended the deadline for NGOs to register under FCRA. And various NGOs, in fact, had also mentioned that they are under a crippling effect after MHA had introduced new guidelines to FCRA, and this latest searches that CBI had extended or had carried out will be in fact used by these NGOs, claiming that they are under lot of strain because of these raids that are being carried out by the Federal Probe Agency.
All right, Bhavtosh, thank you so much. So very, very important piece of news that Bhavtosh is breaking for us. In fact, this is the crackdown on NGOs which have gone ahead and violated the FCRA provisions. The government officials, in fact, are under scanner, which is to do with these raids also, which the CBI is currently conducting at 40 locations. And 6 people have already been detained, and about 2 crores Hawala transactions have also been unearthed in this particular case. Let's shift focus now. Over 5,000 teachers across 365 primary municipal schools in East Delhi staged a protest in the national capital today over non-payment of their salaries for the last 6 months. These teachers are no doubt furious over the unpaid remuneration and also pensions that are due to them and have now moved the Delhi High Court in the matter. They are also demanding that all primary municipal schools should now be brought under the Delhi government. Now, joining me on the broadcast is Mr. B.R. Tomar, who's the chairperson of the Joint Council of Teachers Association. In fact, we will also be taking you through the protests that have happened in the national capital. But right after we have a word with Mr. B.R. Tomar. Mr. Tomar, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. This is a very, very important discussion that we must have, because here we're talking about 5,000 teachers and they have not received their due for over 6 months. What is, the MCD-run schools really doing? Why this non-payment?
Actually, जो बेचारे टीचर्स हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं, लगातार काम कर रहे हैं, जिन्होंने कोरोना काल में जो है बेहद बहादुरी के साथ काम किया, जिन्होंने लाशें गिनने से लेकर के लोगों को खाना खिलाने तक, खाना बांटने तक में काम किया। आज वे टीचर्स अपने बच्चों को खाना खिलाने से भी मरहूम हो चुके हैं। जो 6 महीने से जिनके हाथ में पैसा नहीं आया है, वे अपनी किचन कैसे चलाएं, वे अपने बच्चों की फीस कैसे दें, वे अपनी जो नीड्स हैं उन्हें फुलफिल करने के लिए न जाने कैसे कैसे लोगों से पैसा लेकर के, ब्याज पे पैसा लेकर के, क्रेडिट कार्ड्स पे 40% रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पे पैसा लेकर के किसी तरह से किचन चला रहे हैं। और हमें अफसोस इस बात का है कि हमारी सरकार असंवेदनशील लोगों की सरकार साबित हो रही है। बावजूद इसके कि उनके खुद भी बच्चे हैं, बावजूद इसके कि उन्हें पता है कि दिल्ली जैसे शहर में बिना पैसे के 10 दिन भी जिंदा नहीं रहा जा सकता। और हम उन्हें चैलेंज करना चाहते हैं सरकार के नुमाइंदों को कि यदि दिल्ली में वे बगैर पैसे के 10 दिन भी गुजार करके दिखा दे तो हम जिंदगी भर उनकी गुलामी कर देंगे। 6 महीने से कोई भी, ना दिल्ली सरकार, ना एमसीडी, ना
कोई
केंद्र
जवाब
सरकार
नहीं आया है अथॉरिटीज की तरफ से कि 6 महीने तक क्यों नहीं दी गई है फीस, क्यों नहीं दी गई है आप लोगों को सैलरी?
बड़े प्यार के साथ
नहीं आया है,
बहुत प्यार के साथ कह देते हैं हमारे पास पैसा ही नहीं है। अरे जब पैसा नहीं है तो ये दुकान क्यों चला रखी है आपने? जब पैसा नहीं है तो केंद्र सरकार के पास में पैसा है श्रीलंका को देने के लिए, केंद्र सरकार के पास में पैसा है तालिबान को देने के लिए, लेकिन राष्ट्र निर्माताओं को राष्ट्र राजधानी में उनका पेट पालने के लिए बच्चों के लिए पैसा नहीं। काम की कीमत मांग रहे हैं।
तो मुझे एक लास्ट चीज, जो आप दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट तक पहुंचे हैं अपनी कंप्लेंट्स लेके, एक पर्टिकुलर कंप्लेन ये भी है कि आप चाह रहे हैं कि ये जितने स्कूल्स हैं वो दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के एम्बिट में आए, जिसकी वजह से सरकार को ऑलरेडी आप अप्रोच करना चाहते हैं। आपकी क्या अरविंद केजरीवाल से या मनीष सिसोदिया जी से कोई बात हुई है इस बारे में?
नहीं, इस बारे में हमारी कोई बात नहीं हुई है। हम चाहते हैं कि दिल्ली सरकार एमसीडी के, क्योंकि एमसीडी एक सिविक बॉडी है, एमसीडी के पास में ज्यादा सोर्स ऑफ इनकम नहीं है, रिसोर्सेज कम है और उन्हें पैसे की हमेशा दिक्कत बनी रहती है। इसलिए हम चाहते हैं कि शिक्षा वन हेड हो जाए। अलग अलग हेड होने की वजह से दिक्कत हो रही है।
अब
दिल्ली सरकार के जी।
All right. Mr. Tomar, in fact, let me also take our viewers through the protest that you guys, in fact, organized in the national capital. In fact, my colleague Ela was there at the protest site. Let's also hear more voices of the teachers who have not been given their remuneration for the last 6 months.
Around 5,000 teachers of East MCD schools are struggling for their salary from past 5 months. Now they have gathered in front of Rajghat where they are doing a candle march and also protesting with the help of candle. And they are saying that they have knocked every other door and went to every other authorities, but there was no action taken and there was just assurances given to them and which are not satisfying. It is very hard for them, as a teacher says, कि घर चला पाना भी बहुत मुश्किल हो गया है, बच्चों का पेट भरने के लिए भी लोन लेना पड़ता है. They are taking loans from friends and relatives to even fulfill their minimal requirements.
मेहनताना कह लो या इसको सैलरी कह लो किसी भी रूप में, तो जब वो हमें नहीं मिल पा रहा तो बताओ क्या करें। हमारे बच्चे पूछते हैं कि पापा आपकी सैलरी क्यों नहीं आ रही है, तो हम जवाब क्या दें उन्हें।
आज बिल्कुल भी गुजारा नहीं है और डू और डाई के अलावा हमारे पास कोई चारा बचा ही नहीं है।
मैडम जी अभी तक हमारी कुछ नहीं सुनी गई बच्चों की खातिर, क्योंकि गरीब बच्चे हम पैदल चल कर आ रहे हैं, हमारे जेबों में किराया नहीं है, हमारे मकानों के देने के लिए किराया नहीं है, हम बहुत मजबूर हैं। जब हम मासूमों के जो शक्ल देखते हैं फिर भी हम पढ़ाने आ रहे हैं, पढ़ाने के बाद हम लोग यहाँ पर इकट्ठा हैं। 5 मंथ से हमारे जेब में एक पैसा नहीं आया, स्कूल चलाने के लिए भी हम लोगों को धनराशि की जरूरत है जो कि वो भी नहीं मिली है।
बहुत ज़्यादा मेंटल प्रेशर है मैम, शब्दों में बयान नहीं कर सकता कितना मेंटल प्रेशर। लोगों का EMI जा रहा है, लोगों का मकान गिर भी जा रहा है, चूँकि बाउंस हो रहा है चेक लोगों का, ठीक, सबकी अपनी रूटीन खर्चा है।
Imagine these are teachers who actually provide our children with the education that they are supposed to receive, and they in fact are having to protest, take to the streets and talk about the salaries that have been not given to them for the last 6 months. We'll keep our focus on this particular story, but for now we are moving on to the Supreme Court and the Sedition Law. The debate really continues. Now the Apex Court has in fact pulled up the centre as the hearing on the contentious Sedition Law has resumed. Even terming the 6 decades-old colonial law as quote-unquote Kala Kanoon. That is what the Supreme Court said. So the top court has asked the Narendra Modi-led government to submit its stand on whether all sedition cases filed across the country could be now kept on hold till the government really finishes its re-examination. Because remember, the government in fact climbed down on its earlier stance vis-a-vis the law, asking for more time to deliberate on it. So not more, but 24 hours has been given to the government. Yes, that's what the Apex Court has given this one day to the centre to issue instructions to all states and union territories to keep the sedition cases on hold. My colleague Meenakshi now joins me live for more inputs on this story. Meenakshi, as I was mentioning, 24 hours have been given to the centre to actually go ahead and instruct all the states and union territories to keep all the sedition-related cases on hold. What more can you tell us what really transpired in the court today?
Well, yes, absolutely, Griha. You see, this was a twist perhaps the government itself was not expecting, because the government gave that assurance to the Supreme Court seeking for a deferment, adjournment rather, for the sedition proceedings. But the Supreme Court had a twist up its sleeve. And why we call it a twist is very simply this, Griha, like you rightly mentioned. The Supreme Court wants a specific answer from the government, because you see, there is no time limit that has been set for the process of re-evaluation or reconsideration of this contentious sedition law by the government. This is an exercise which could very well extend for a long time. So what happens in that long time while the process of reconsideration of sedition law is underway? The usage of sedition law continues across the country. So that is the underlying concern of the Supreme Court, and which is why the Supreme Court has specifically asked for the government to revert by 10:30 or perhaps a little later, whenever the matter is taken up tomorrow, to revert to the top court if the government will consider issuing directions to all the other states of the Indian Union to refrain from slapping this penal provision of sedition law in respective capacities. That's huge, given the fact that perhaps the government thought that by virtue of this assurance, the matter could be deferred till further notice. But here is the Supreme Court of India wanting a specific response from the government. Like you rightly mentioned, what will happen to all the presently ongoing sedition cases that have been invoked against individuals? And secondly, what is the plan of the government vis-a-vis issuing directive to all other states of the Indian Union so that this penal provision cannot be invoked in the interim when the government is re-evaluating or re-looking this contentious sedition provision. So again, very interestingly poised, how it will pan out tomorrow before the Apex Court.
Absolutely. Meenakshi, thank you so much for breaking it down for us. In fact, we also spoke to Supreme Court lawyer Prashant Bhushan on his thoughts on the court's observations. Let's listen into that reaction as well.
I think it's an important development, because the court has said that, all right, the government or the parliament can reconsider the law of sedition, but in the meantime, what do you propose to do about both pending cases and future cases of sedition.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who have been charged with sedition, wrongly charged with sedition, and who are languishing in jails. So, on that, the government has said that it will get back. Solicitor General said he would get back by tomorrow. So, they have given them time till tomorrow to consider what they propose to do about these cases, because the misuse is continuing.
Yeah.
It's continuing almost on a daily basis.
In fact, in a reprieve for BJP leader Tajinder Bagga, the Punjab and Haryana High Court have now stayed his arrest till the 6th of July. Now, this comes after the high drama that followed his arrest by the Punjab police from the national capital, and one that eventually ended up involving the police of 2 states and 1 union territory.
आज देश के न्यायालय ने दर्शा दिया कि किसी भी व्यक्ति को अपने आप को कानून से ऊपर नहीं समझना चाहिए। जो पंजाब पुलिस जिसने अपनी वीरता से आतंकवाद को परास्त किया, उस पंजाब पुलिस के ऊपर अगर किसी ने डिफेम करने का काम किया है तो उसके लिए अकेला व्यक्ति कोई जिम्मेदार है तो अरविंद केजरीवाल है।
And my colleague Pulkit now joins me live on the broadcast. Pulkit, we just heard Tajinder Bagga after the relief that was granted to him. No arrest till the 6th of July. That is what he is looking at, something that is bound to make him happy, because the kind of drama that really ensued after his arrest by the Punjab police from the national capital was for everybody to see, and it in fact ended up dominating headlines through the day on that day.
देखिए, अभी भी अगर हम देखें तो जो पंजाब हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट से फैसला हुआ है वो 6 तारीख तक की राहत जरूर है बग्गा को, लेकिन पंजाब पुलिस अभी भी दो बार 2 घंटे की 1-1 घंटे की पूछताछ के लिए परमिशन ले चुकी है। यानी कि पंजाब में ना सही भले ही, लेकिन दिल्ली में तेजिंदर बग्गा से पूछताछ पंजाब पुलिस करेगी। क्या शेड्यूल होगा ये तय नहीं है, लेकिन राहत जरूर है, यानी कि इस बीच में उनकी कोई गिरफ्तारी नहीं होगी, लेकिन पूछताछ जरूर पंजाब पुलिस करेगी। और आप जो पंजाब पुलिस के सूत्र बता रहे हैं वो ये कि तेजिंदर बग्गा से इन 2 घंटे यानी कि हर बार 1-1 घंटे की पूछताछ की प्लानिंग पंजाब पुलिस कर रही है। यानी कि उनसे पूछताछ के दौरान क्या-क्या चीजें सामने आती हैं, जो उन्होंने ट्वीट्स किए थे, उन्हें लेकर पंजाब पुलिस अपनी पूरी रणनीति आगे बना रही है। 6 तारीख के बाद में हाईकोर्ट क्या बोलता है, यानी कि पंजाब तेजिंदर बग्गा को लेकर आएगी या नहीं, ये 6 तारीख के बाद में साफ हो जाएगा। जी।
All right, Pulkit, thank you so much for bringing those details for our viewers. So Punjab police is going to go ahead and question Tajinder Bagga in the national capital, despite that relief that has been offered to him by the Punjab and Haryana court. That is no arrest till July 6th. However, that questioning is going to continue for Tajinder Bagga. Now, shifting focus, in the wake of the recent assault on 2 minors inside a school run by the Delhi civic body, the Delhi Commission of Women has issued summons to the commissioners of 3 civic bodies in the state. The commission had sought information on security guards, installation of CCTV cameras, and also details of the mechanism set up by the municipal corporations of Delhi to deal with complaints of sexual assault inside the schools. Now, remember, on the 30th of April, 2 girls were allegedly sexually assaulted by an unknown man inside the classroom of a school in Delhi, and the intruder was later arrested. Now let's shift focus. What I'm going to talk about next concerns you, me and everybody. All of us take cabs in our day-to-day life. Ola, Uber, Meru have become an integral part of our lives. But the reality on the issue of these cabs have become a problem now. These cab aggregators are now charging exorbitant amounts from the commuters, and ride cancellation has become a common phenomenon. Meanwhile, complaints against these cab aggregators have come in from all parts of the country, and amid this, the centre has pulled up the cab aggregators, including Ola and Uber, for alleged unfair trade practices, and has also warned them of strict action in case they fail to improve their systems. The Consumer Affairs Ministry met the representatives of Ola, Uber, Meru, Rapido, Jugnu and also later rebuked them for their functioning and has also asked them to explain the details on operations, fare pricing, algorithm and drivers' payment structure. In fact, the government warned the cab aggregators of action amid rising consumer complaints. My colleague Archana joins us live on the broadcast to actually take us through what has happened when that meet really took place, and also the kind of statement that has come out, because obviously we will be bringing you the other side of the story as well. So Archana, what are the cab aggregators really saying on this?
Good evening, Griha. So essentially, it was a meeting where the government gave a dressing down to these companies, and as you rightly mentioned, Ola, Uber, Rapido, Meru and Jugnu. Now, Uber has released a statement after the meeting, and they said that we welcome the feedback that has been given to us by the government. They say that we will continue to provide inputs and we will strive to be the platform for riders and drivers. And Uber also said that they're committed towards raising the bar for us and consumers. Now, an important thing that happened in this meeting, and as I mentioned, that the government gave a dressing down to these cab aggregators, and one of the biggest yardsticks for the government was the complaints that they were receiving on the Jago Grahak Jago helpline. And the government has said that this is just a tip of the iceberg, and it's a recurring issue with people, and they have regularly complained about this, that their rides are getting cancelled, the drivers are requesting them to cancel the trip, and the biggest issue is of differential pricing. Say, for example, when you book a cab, the fare is something else, and when you reach your destination, there is an exponential rise in your fare. So these were some of the issues that were flagged by people on the Jago Grahak Jago helpline, and of course on social media people keep posting about their grievances. So the government categorically told these cab aggregators that either you fix your problems, either you set your house in order, or be prepared to face penalties.
Absolutely. Archana, thank you so much for taking us through the statement that's been released by Uber, and also what really ensued when the government officials really met with these cab aggregators. Because remember, we are talking about the growing complaints when it comes to these consumer forums that have put forth, when it comes to the kind of pricing that has come to light by these cab aggregators. And also there is so much that has been said on the other side of the story as well, where the drivers who go ahead and ride these Ola and Ubers, they are complaining that the money really doesn't get translated as is, because their salaries or something also that they don't initially go ahead and get outrightly, and that's why many of them go ahead and want cash payments also. That is something that's also coming out from this particular story. We'll of course continue to track in developments, and get reactions from Ola and Uber. This is something that directly, like I said, impacts you and all of us. Now, shifting focus, the Indian Railways has introduced the foldable baby berths on select trains to make the railway journey of new mothers travelling with their infants more comfortable. The initiative, which is a collaborative effort of the Northern Railway's Lucknow and Delhi divisions, was launched on a trial basis on Mother's Day. And mission demolition continues in the national capital. Just a day after the demolition drive in Shaheen Bagh, a demolition drive to remove illegal structures was carried out in Delhi's New Friends Colony and also in Mangolpuri today. Bulldozers rolled into these areas amid a heavy police presence. Meanwhile, pretty much like what was witnessed in Shaheen Bagh, Aam Aadmi Party MLAs staged protests against the drive, and one person was even detained in New Friends Colony. The BJP-run civic body has been carrying out the first phase of the anti-encroachment exercise from the 4th of May, and this will continue till the 13th of May in several parts of South Delhi.
हमारा जो लोगों का ये मत होता है, हम धर्म विशेष पर कार्रवाई करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। इसलिए मैं उन लोगों को भी ये आईना दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि हमारा उद्देश्य क्या है, हमारा लक्ष्य क्या है और हम क्यों कर रहे हैं। हम लोगों की, जनता की सेवा के लिए, लोगों को जो उनके अधिकार हैं वो उनको मिलने चाहिए। स्कूल की बच्चों की बसेस आनी चाहिए, स्कूल की वैन आनी चाहिए, एम्बुलेंस आनी चाहिए। आपकी फायर टेंडर आनी चाहिए। सारी चीज़ें व्यवस्थित रूप से समाज में जो छोड़ी हुई सरकार के द्वारा सड़कें हैं वो क्लियर होनी चाहिए।
Shifting focus to Bengaluru now, a day after a stadium roof collapsed there, Aam Aadmi Party workers staged protests outside the Bengaluru civic body office. In fact, Aam Aadmi Party workers staged a protest against the poor quality of infrastructure and contractors' commission. Remember, heavy rains caused a portion of the roof at the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Stadium to collapse in Bengaluru yesterday. And this stadium was inaugurated by the Karnataka Chief Minister only on March 1st.
Well, the Aam Aadmi Party is staging a protest in Bengaluru city over the poor infrastructure. Well, it was only yesterday that we saw how the roof, a portion of the roof of the stadium of the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Stadium in HSR layout had collapsed. Let's tell you that, in fact, this only after one spell of rains. And today we're seeing how the citizens of the city are having to deal with the poor infrastructure despite having to pay whopping taxes. Well, in fact, we're going to take this straight to them. The party today is, of course, protesting against the fact that the 40% commission issue in the state of Karnataka still hasn't been resolved. And most importantly, even as we're seeing such huge amounts being spent, we believe that a huge amount was in fact spent on the stadium, and despite that it was the poor infrastructure that led to this collapse. So I'm going to speak to you very quickly. What is the party protesting against today? We're seeing there's quite a lot of poor infrastructure across the city. Is this why the party is protesting?
If one walks about 200 meters away from here, there is a stadium, cricket stadium, that was inaugurated by our Chief Minister Shri Bommai Sahib just on March 1, and it has come crashing. It has come crashing in a small showers, pre-monsoon shower. We are not even into monsoon yet. So what has happened? This BJP is the most corrupt government. It takes 40% commission in every single government works.
And we're staying with news from Karnataka. There's a breaking news that we are getting at this hour, as the government in Karnataka has now issued a fresh order on loudspeakers, and now it is being said by the government of Karnataka that no outdoor loudspeakers will be allowed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Technically, this means that the first azan before 6 a.m. will not be allowed in the state of Karnataka as per this latest directive by the government. Shifting focus now, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has said that AFSPA will soon be revoked from the entire state of Assam. He attributed this statement to the improved law and order situation in the state in the last 6 years following the partial withdrawal of AFSPA. Remember, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act has been revoked from 23 districts and partially from 1 district in the state. This is a very important statement that is coming to light, and this has happened after the Home Minister Amit Shah was attending an event in Guwahati. In fact, he went ahead and he exuded confidence, saying that AFSPA is going to be removed from the entire state of Assam. So an AFSPA-free Assam is what the Home Minister is advocating. We'll bring that statement of the Home Minister very, very soon. But before we go to that, let me quickly bring my colleague Nibir, who's joining me live on the broadcast. Nibir, as I was mentioning, this is an important statement that has come from the Home Minister himself, where he is sought a revocation of the AFSPA from the entire state of Assam.
Yes, as we know that earlier 23 districts, the disturbed areas were removed, but now the Home Minister has said that the entire state, the AFSPA will be revoked, and this has been initiated because of the recent initiatives done by the government, especially with the peace accord that has been signed with the Karbi people as well as the Bodo people, and because of that, because of the relative stability that has been ensured in the state, the Home Minister has stated that the AFSPA will be revoked. And this is indeed a major know that AFSPA has been on the forefront and that has been an issue in the entire Northeast. But the statement made by the Home Minister has indicated that due to the peace and tranquility that has been ushered in the Northeast as well, especially in Assam, the Home Minister has stated that because of that, the AFSPA will be removed from the state, and it is indeed a big day for the people of Assam. And the comments has been, appreciated by a lot of people because the AFSPA has been a big issue for the people in Assam.
But thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Let's shift focus now and talk about the other issue. This is about 2 pilots and 2 cabin crew members who've been suspended for 3 years for failing the pre-flight alcohol test for a second time in a row. Now, in fact, 37 crew members have been suspended for a period of 3 months after testing positive in the breath analyzer test. Starting this year, the Director General of Civil Aviation carried out 48 enforcement actions for violators. And during this period, 9 pilots and 32 cabin crew members were found breath analyzer test or BA positive.
Pilots and crew members, before operating any particular flight, have to undergo a breath analyzer test. This test is used to find out whether any pilot or crew member before operating the flight is tipsy or not. As per the recent data released by DGCA, in 4 months from January to April, DGCA has found via various breath analyzer tests that were conducted, 9 pilots had tested positive and 32 cabin crew members had tested positive in this breath analyzer test. Means they were found tipsy ahead of operating a flight. We are also being told that 2 pilots and 2 cabin crew members were found positive for the second time, and that's the reason why they have been suspended for 3 years. This is what the rule says. However, remaining 37 have been suspended for a period of 3 months because they had tested positive in this breath analyzer test for the first time. Apart from this, there is data about the pilots and cabin crew members. So 4 out of 9 pilots who had tested positive in this breath analyzer test were from Indigo Airlines, 1 was from Go Air, 1 from SpiceJet, 1 from Air India Express, 1 from Vistara and 1 from Alliance Air. However, there were about 7 other crew members and pilots who either missed this particular breath analyzer test or refused to take this test, and action has been taken against these as well.
An important action there by the DGCA. On that note, we are slipping into a very short break here on Nation Tonight. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. Let's revisit that breaking news input that we received from Karnataka. Let's take a look at that. So this is an order by the government of Karnataka on loudspeakers. In fact, the government has now said that no outside loudspeakers will be allowed between the time period of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And technically, this means that the first azan before 6 a.m. will not be allowed on loudspeaker. My colleague Neha Hebale joins me on the broadcast for more on this. Neha, the kind of things that have come out of the state of Karnataka when we talk about the non-secular practices, so to speak, will probably be aggravated after this decision, because here clearly this is being underlined that the morning azan is not going to be put out, on the loudspeaker as per this latest directive from the government of Karnataka.
Well, again, it's important over here to mention that this has, nothing to do particularly, again, with the azan, but this is in fact applicable to all religious institutions This could be devotional songs from the temples, or this could be, possibly the hymns from the church as well, for that matter. So yes, while this order has now, in fact, been brought in place, this is important because this already comes in the backdrop of the loudspeaker row in the state of Karnataka, where we saw, that things had turned quite ugly. Well, as far as the right-wing organizations are concerned, they had started to play music on loudspeakers, in fact, devotional music on loudspeakers in a bit to combat. In fact, in the backdrop of things is going to have a huge impact, not only on the religious institutions, be it the temples, the churches, or the mosques for that matter, but even on commercial establishments. Now, largely, of course, the order reiterating what we already knew from the Supreme Court order, which says that, of course, the use of loudspeakers should be monitored and regulated. And that's precisely what this order is now going to do. Well, as far as, of course, you were talking about secular and non-secular practices in the state is concerned, we'll have to wait and see what impact this order has on ground. And again, let's also mention over here an important aspect of this order, which goes on to say that this would only be allowed if prior permission is taken. So yes, while this has put a huge clamp on loudspeakers being used from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., there is a clause over there that very specifically mentions that, if at all permission is taken, then, they would be granted, they would be allowed to use the loudspeakers. Back to you.
Absolutely. All right, Neha, thank you so much. So no loudspeakers in Karnataka between 10 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning. That is as per the latest order that has been released by the government of Karnataka. Let's shift focus now. At least 12 people have been detained and questioned in the Mohali blast case that rocked the Punjab Intel headquarters on Monday. The Mohali police also informed that the launcher used in the attack has now been recovered. Earlier, samples from the spot of the blast were sent to the forensic team for further investigation. The Central Intelligence Agencies and the Punjab Police have intensified their operations to gather more details into the incident. However, the Punjab Police is now probing the role of gangster-turned-terrorist Harinder Singh Rinda in the Mohali grenade attack on the police intel office and is suspecting a link between the recent Karnal terror bid and the Mohali attack. The police also suspects that Karnal case accused Gurpreet was reportedly in touch with the terrorist Harinder Rinda.
ਕਾਫੀ ਅਰਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਭਾਈਚਾਰਾ ਉਹ ਇੰਨਾ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਰਾਦਿਆਂ 'ਚ ਸਫਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ। ਕੱਲ ਰਾਤ ਜੋ ਮੋਹਾਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਘਟਨਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਡੀਜੀਪੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਅਫਸਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਸਾਰਾ ਡਿਟੇਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਨਿਕਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰੀਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਵੀ ਗਈਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੜਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਣਗੇ।
My colleague Bhavtosh now joins me on the broadcast. Bhavtosh, one important development that's come out of this entire case is the launcher that has just been recovered and also the probe that is now on the lines of actually linking the two cases of Mohali and also Karnal. Just take us through all the developments in this particular case.
Griha, the case has not yet been cracked despite claims by the politicians and also by the top police officers in Punjab. The police has said that they are still working on certain leads. Now, this is one of the most audacious attacks that have taken place in Punjab in recent times. The very fact that they have used rocket-propelled grenade launchers, though officers are saying that it could be possible that local criminals might have used them, because the trends that we have seen in recent past is that their handlers who are based in Pakistan have been paying anything between 1 lakh to 5 lakh rupees to these criminals who were earlier lodged in jail. And in jail, they have been radicalized to an extent where if you pay them some amount of money, they can carry out any attack. One more important thing that has happened in Punjab in the past 6 months is that criminal turned terrorists like Harinder Singh Rinda, they have been targeting government building and buildings of law enforcing agencies, whether it's police station in Navshera or for that matter, the court premises in Ludhiana. This is also part of that because if you look at this attack, they've specifically targeted one of the most important buildings of Punjab Police, that is the office of or the headquarters of Intelligence Department of Punjab Police. the use of rocket-propelled grenade launcher also means that the terrorists are saying that they can attack any building, even if it's most protected building. And the need of for Punjab Police as well as for federal probe agency like NIA is to crack this case and also to give a very exemplary punishment to all those who are behind this attack.
All right, Bhavto, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We'll, of course, keep a tab on this particular story. Remember, as per Bhavtosh, the story that he's bringing to us is the case that's still, something that is being probed by not just the Punjab police, but also the intelligence agencies. We are yet to actually have a breakthrough in this particular case. Let's now shift focus and go to Sri Lanka. Amid the unrest that's unfolding in the crisis-hit island nation, Sri Lankan government has now issued shooting orders to the armed forces. Earlier in the day, emergency powers were given to the military and the police. This means that the military and the police can now detain people without warrants. Remember, this comes a day after violent clashes broke out in the capital city of Colombo, which claimed 7 lives and injured nearly 200 others. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who continues to hold power even after prolonged calls for his resignation, has now extended the nationwide curfew till the 12th of May. But the protesters, in fact, are defiant. The statue of D.A. Rajapaksa, the father of the Rajapaksa brothers, was desecrated by a group of people in Thangale. So far, about 38 houses have been set on fire and 65 houses have been damaged in the island nation. Sri Lanka, remember, is battling its worst economic and political crisis since independence. Food, fuel, medicine shortage, soaring prices and power cuts have compelled large number of citizens to take to the streets and demand a resignation of the Rajapaksas. This is what has come to light from Sri Lanka, a shoot-on-sight order that has been given to the armed forces by the Defence Ministry in Sri Lanka. There have been houses that belong to the Rajapaksas, allegedly, that have been set on fire. Houses have been damaged. That is the kind of protest that the island nation has seen. In fact, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president of the country, continues to hold power, and despite the prolonged resignation calls that have been coming to light from the entire island nation, he continues to actually stay on to his high chair, and he, along with the defense ministry there, has given the powers, emergency powers, to the armed forces in the country and also the police. Let's shift focus now. Congress leader Ola Uber is in the eye of the storm for a comment against the internationally renowned Tamil musician Ilayaraja. Speaking at an event in Erode recently, Mr. Ola Uber had charged that someone who had accepted the communist ideology when he was living below the poverty line was now identifying himself as upper caste after earning money and fame. A complaint has now been filed against the leader with the National SC/ST Commission regarding this issue, following which the National SC/ST Commission has sent a notice to Chennai Police Commissioner and Collector to submit a report within 15 days regarding actions taken based on the complaint. Let's now also take a look at one more important story. While COVID continues to be a matter of concern, let's now look at another concerning piece of news. The world is seeing a growing number of acute hepatitis cases in children. Now, on 5th April, WHO was in fact notified of 10 cases of severe hepatitis of unknown origin in children across central Scotland. By 8th of April, 74 of those cases had been identified in the United Kingdom. And ever since, there have been continuing reports of similar nature. Now, as of 21st of April, at least 169 cases of acute hepatitis of unknown origin have been reported from 12 countries. Out of these, the maximum number of cases are coming out of United Kingdom. And amid the COVID surge, cases of tomato flu has been reported in Kerala, and the impact of which can also be seen in Tamil Nadu now. In order to curb the spread of tomato flu, teams consisting of health, revenue and police officials are carrying out tests of those entering Coimbatore along Kerala-Tamil Nadu border. Children below the age of 5 are especially being monitored for tomato flu at the borders. Meanwhile, rebuffing the rumours that there's a relation between the consumption of tomatoes and tomato flu, the Tamil Nadu Health Secretary J. Radhakrishnan said that there's no need to panic. On the other hand, the Coimbatore District Collector has also instructed the Anganwadi workers to create awareness among people about the flu. Now, what is tomato flu really? Let me tell you that it is a kind of fever where children below the age of 5 experience an undiagnosed fever. Usually, an infected child experiences rashes and skin irritation and also dehydration. And we are ending this broadcast with a sad piece of news that's come from the music industry as Santoor maestro Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma passed away at his Mumbai residence today. The legendary music composer took his last breath at the age of 84 and he died due to cardiac arrest. The legend has been suffering from kidney-related issues for the last 6 months and he was in fact on dialysis. And once a little-known instrument from Jammu and Kashmir, the Santoor, was given a classic status by the maestro. Here's to the memory of Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma.